Britain at a crossroads, the illusion of reform and the collapse of political accountability. In the latest chapter of Britain's ongoing political drama, we are presented with what is being heralded as a momentous victory for the so-called reformist agenda. Yet, on closer examination, this news reveals itself to be little more than another tiresome illustration of our nation's political malaise, one that exposes the alarming lack of direction from both Labour and the Tories while underlining the opportunistic rise of Nigel Farage's Reform UK. Let's begin with the Labour debacle. Sir Keir Starmer, the ostensible leader of Britain's opposition, finds himself in the unenviable position of playing defence over his perceived overtures towards the European Union. Following his meeting with European Council President Antonio Costa, Starmer's remarks about closer cooperation with the EU have sparked ire among Eurosceptics who accuse him of surreptitiously steering the UK towards an EEA-style relationship, complete with single market obligations and free movement. The optics could hardly be worse for Labour, a party still reeling from the existential conundrum of reconciling its Brexit-voting heartlands with its pro-European metropolitan base. But is Starmer truly guilty of advancing such a pro-European agenda, or are these fears overblown? For all the accusations of Europhilia, Starmer has been at pains to reassure the public that his Labour government would not entertain rejoining the EU's single market or customs union. Such statements, however, ring hollow in a political environment where promises are as easily discarded as yesterday's headlines. Trust in political rhetoric has been eroded to such an extent that even the faintest whiff of European alignment is enough to send the right-wing press and conservative backbenchers into apoplexy. Meanwhile, the Reform UK party, led by the ever-persistent Nigel Farage, continues its opportunistic march, capitalising on the Labour's collapse in this sense. Meanwhile, the Reform UK party, led by the ever-persistent Nigel Farage, continues its opportunistic march, capitalising on the disillusionment of voters who feel abandoned by both major parties. Tance, an 18.4% drop in vote share, should sound alarm bells at party headquarters. Yet, the broader story is the apparent momentum Reform UK has gained, winning seats from both Labour and the Conservatives while positioning itself as a fresh alternative to Britain's stagnant political duopoly. The polling data underscores this shift. Reform UK is reportedly within a single percentage point of leading a nationwide poll, achieving 25% support compared to Labour's 26% and outpacing the Conservatives at 23%. While one might question the reliability of such polls, the trend is undeniable. Reform's appeal lies not just in its critique of the political establishment but in its ability to transcend traditional left-right divides, tapping into the frustrations of voters who feel betrayed by successive governments. With over 100,000 members and growing, Farage's so-called People's Army is no longer a fringe movement. It is a credible threat to the status quo, yet the rise of Reform UK should not be mistaken for a genuine ideological revolution. Beneath its populist veneer lies a platform heavy on grievance, but light on substantive solutions. Its rhetoric of change, while seductive to disillusioned voters, raises serious questions about its capacity to govern effectively. This is not a party offering coherent policies, but one exploiting the vacuum created by the failures of Labour and the Conservatives. Starmer's Labour has compounded its woes by implementing deeply unpopular measures. Tax hikes totaling £4 billion, the removal of winter fuel payments for millions of pensioners, and punitive death duties on farmers are hardly the hallmarks of a party attuned to the struggles of ordinary Britons. These policies, coupled with revelations about substantial donations to Starmer and his colleagues, only deepen the perception that Labour is as out of touch as its Conservative rivals. On the Conservative front, their brief rebound in council by-elections masks the deeper rot within the party. This is a government that has presided over economic stagnation, a cost-of-living crisis, and mounting public discontent. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's insistence that closer cooperation with the EU will enhance border security and economic growth has done little to allay fears that his government is rudderless and reactive. For all their talk of sovereignty and national interest, the Conservatives appear as beholden to internal divisions and short-term political calculations as ever. Nowhere is this lack of foresight more evident than in the ongoing saga of state pensions. A new petition calling for a dramatic increase in state pensions to £28,554 per year and a reduction in the retirement age to 60 has garnered over 2,100 signatures. While the proposal may be aspirational, its viability is questionable at best. Raising pensions to such levels would require a seismic shift in fiscal policy, one that neither Labour nor the Conservatives are remotely prepared to undertake. Meanwhile, changes to the winter fuel payment scheme, which now limits eligibility to those on means-tested benefits, exemplify the piecemeal approach that has characterized government policy on social welfare. The broader economic context is equally grim. Households on variable energy tariffs face looming price hikes in the new year, with the cost of living crisis showing no signs of abating. For pensioners and working families alike, the prospect of financial relief remains a distant dream. These systemic issues demand bold and innovative leadership, yet our political class seems incapable of rising to the occasion. In conclusion, the current political landscape is one of disarray and disillusionment. Labour and the Conservatives, once the titans of British politics, are now reduced to squabbling over scraps of public trust, leaving the door wide open for opportunistic actors like Nigel Farage to exploit. Reform UK's rise, while indicative of widespread dissatisfaction, offers no panacea for Britain's ills. Instead, it serves as a stark reminder of the consequences of a political system that prioritizes soundbites over substance and short-term gains over long-term vision. If Britain is to chart a new course, it will require more than empty slogans and opportunistic gambits. It will require leadership, accountability, and a willingness to address the root causes of our national malaise, qualities that remain in woefully short supply.